If you are already over 75, or getting there, I need to start by saying something with great respect. It is not a lack of effort on your part. I know many people who wake up early, prepare a bowl of oatmeal, avoid fried foods, cut out fat, choose lighter foods. And even so, at some point in life, hear that sentence no one wants to hear. Your arteries are compromised. And then comes the question that won't leave your head. How can this be happening if I am doing everything right? For years I watched this happen to people close to me. Disciplined, careful people who truly tried to eat well. And even so, tests showing slower circulation, rising blood pressure, signs of hardening in the arteries. It seemed unfair. That was when I started paying attention to a detail that almost no one mentions. It's not just what you remove from your diet, it's what you add. Oatmeal, for example, is excellent. Rich in fiber, it helps control cholesterol. But by itself, it is only the beginning. What really makes a difference is what accompanies that oatmeal first thing in the morning. Some common, simple, inexpensive ingredients have the ability to help the body produce more nitric oxide, a natural substance that relaxes blood vessels, improves blood flow, and helps prevent that dangerous buildup that forms over the years. And here is the important point. Not every healthy food has this effect. Among dozens of natural options, seeds, fruits, spices, few truly demonstrate consistent impact on the flexibility of the arteries and on inflammation markers. Today I am going to share 6 ingredients that can transform an ordinary bowl of oatmeal into something much more powerful for your circulation. They are natural, they are accessible, and probably some are already in your kitchen. But I ask one thing, stay with me until the end, because the first on the list usually surprises, especially those who are already over 70. Before we begin, I would like to know one thing. What is your breakfast usually like? Do you eat calmly? Or is it something quick, almost automatic? Think about that for a moment. Because sometimes, small changes in the first meal of the day can have a much greater impact than we imagine over the years. Now, let's start with the 6th ingredient on the list. Small in size but big in effect when it comes to circulation. The 6th ingredient is flaxseed. And I know, it seems like a small thing, almost food decoration. But flaxseed has 2 qualities that make a difference for those already over 50, 60, 70. It helps calm silent inflammation in the body and helps make the blood less heavy in the sense of circulating more easily. Many people look at an artery as if it were a pipe that clogs all at once, but in practice it is more like a path that becomes rough inside over time. When blood passes through an irritated, inflamed place, the body reacts worse, and this process adds up day after day. Flaxseed has good fats and fibers that, in a routine, can contribute precisely at this point, supporting cholesterol balance and the functioning of the vessels. But there is one detail that changes everything. Flaxseed needs to be ground. If you throw the whole seed into the oatmeal, many times it passes too whole through the body, and you benefit little. So the smartest way is to buy the whole seed and grind it at the moment. The simple way, a coffee grinder, a small food processor, or even a mortar and pestle. Grinding only the amount for the day is enough. And how do you put it in the oatmeal without complicating things? Make the oatmeal normally. Turn off the heat. Wait a minute, just for it to stop bubbling. Then you mix in a tablespoon of ground flaxseed. At the beginning, if your intestine is not used to fiber, start with half a tablespoon or a smaller spoon for a few days. Some people feel gas if they overdo it right away, so the calmest path is to increase little by little. And there is a small thing that helps. After mixing, let the oatmeal rest for about 20 or 30 seconds. The flaxseed absorbs some of the liquid and becomes easier to eat and to digest. It seems like a silly detail, but it makes a difference. Now the fifth ingredient is turmeric. It is that yellow spice that stains the spoon, stains the hand, but on the other hand talks very well with inflammation processes in the body. And when we talk about arteries, inflammation is a word that appears all the time, because the problem is not only fat or cholesterol. The problem is when the wall of the vessel becomes irritated, rigid, less elastic. Then circulation suffers. It is not something you feel on the first day. It is something that appears little by little, like a door that creaks, a knee that stiffens. With the arteries, this hardening also happens. The point about turmeric is that, by itself, it is hard to take advantage of properly. Some people sprinkle it on top and think that's it, problem solved. It's not like that. The secret is to combine it with 2 partners, black pepper and a little fat. It doesn't have to be anything exaggerated. It's just understanding that there are substances in turmeric that hitch a ride better when they have these 2 elements together. So the simple way to do it: take a teaspoon of turmeric powder, add a small pinch of freshly ground black pepper, and a teaspoon of a fat that you tolerate well. It can be a drizzle of olive oil. It can be a small piece of butter. It can be coconut oil if you use it. Then you mix this. Some people heat it quickly in a pan just to open up the aroma and mix better. But if you don't want to heat it separately, you can put it directly into the oatmeal already ready and mix well. The most important thing is not to throw it into boiling water and think everything is fine. Better to do it with the oatmeal already cooked and off the heat, because that way you mix it and don't lose control of the flavor. And there is another practical detail. Turmeric has a strong taste. If you add too much, you ruin the experience and quit in 2 days. So start light. Half a teaspoon, well mixed, and adjust as you go. A good idea is to pair it with cinnamon or with a small piece of mashed banana, because it balances the flavor and makes it more breakfast and less lunch seasoning. The routine needs to be pleasant enough for you to keep it. That is the point. But the idea is, if you use cinnamon every day, it is worth preferring Ceylon cinnamon, because it tends to be milder and, in general, is the one people choose when they want to use it more frequently. The name Ceylon sometimes appears on the package. If it doesn't appear, you can look in natural product stores. And why is cinnamon on this list? Because it helps a lot with something that affects many people after 60. The ups and downs of blood sugar, and that heaviness that comes after eating. When the body keeps dealing with constant spikes, this also wears down the inner part of the vessels. So cinnamon comes in as help in the overall scenario. It is not magic, but it can be an important piece of the puzzle, especially if you are the type who adds honey, sugar, very ripe banana or dried fruits to the oatmeal. Cinnamon helps make breakfast more balanced. The best way is to add it when the oatmeal is already at eating temperature, warmer rather than boiling. That way the aroma stays more alive and you don't need to overdo the amount. Half a teaspoon already changes the flavor. And if you want an extra touch without turning it into dessert, a drop of vanilla or a little bit of cocoa powder can combine. Very little, just to give it a recipe feel. The next day you eat it cold or just heat it lightly. For some people this makes it easier to maintain the routine. And what truly changes life is routine, not one perfect day. Reducing internal irritation, helping the vessel function better, and giving the body more ability to deal with what it is already carrying. And this is especially important after 75, because the body still responds very well to small changes, but it needs consistency and gentleness. Gentleness in the sense of not trying to become another person in 1 week. So, if you want to do this with your feet on the ground, you start with a base. Ready, warm oatmeal. Then choose one of these items at a time. First week, ground flaxseed. Second week, keep the flaxseed and test turmeric your way, very mild. Third week, fit in the cinnamon. The person who adjusts gradually finds a way that fits their palate and their life. It is to strengthen your side day by day, to help the body work better. If you have health follow-up, it is worth mentioning these changes, especially if you notice differences in blood pressure, in your intestine, in sleep, in anything. Good change also deserves to be observed. In the next section, I will go into the 3 ingredients that many people do not expect to see on a list like this. One that seems like a chocolate taste, another that seems like a fancy fruit, and the first place, which usually causes strangeness when the person hears the name, but makes sense when you understand how it connects with circulation. Now we enter the part that many people like, because besides helping, it makes the oatmeal look like a healthy dessert, without needing to load it with sugar. And here I am going to remind you of one thing. The goal is not to turn your morning into a perfect formula. It is to give your body more tools every day, especially after 75, when circulation needs more care and fewer extremes. The third ingredient is raw cacao, or in small pieces, those cacao nibs. It is not milk chocolate. It is not chocolate drink mix. It is not something full of sugar. It is the purest cacao, more bitter, more real. And why does it help? Because cacao has natural substances that interact very well with blood flow. It is as if it gives the body a little push to produce more of what relaxes the vessels, making the path of the blood less tight and more comfortable. Think of a garden hose. If it is stiff, old, rigid, the water passes with difficulty and creates pressure. Now imagine this hose more flexible. The water flows better. With the vessels, something similar happens. Cacao, in the routine, comes in as help in this flexibility. But there is an important detail. Too much heat ruins what we want to take advantage of. So the best way is not to cook the cacao together. You make the oatmeal, turn off the heat, and wait for it to become warm. Then you put 1 or 2 tablespoons of nibs on top and mix. If you do not have nibs, you can use 100% cocoa powder. But then use a small amount, half a teaspoon or 1 teaspoon at most, because it is strong and bitter. And do you know a simple trick to improve this? Mix it with some fruit that has vitamin C, because that helps the body better take advantage of these substances in cacao. It can be strawberry, it can be kiwi, it can be a few drops of lemon on top. It can be a small portion of berries. It does not need to turn into a fruit salad. Just a touch already helps. And besides that, it tastes good. Another thing, cacao also has magnesium, and magnesium is a mineral that many older people have low without realizing it. Muscles, vessels, rhythm, everything seems more tight. So cacao ends up helping in 2 ways, through what it has that is special, and through this mineral support. But pomegranate has an interesting way of acting in the body, because it is rich in compounds that help deal with that rusting process that happens inside us. And when I say rusting, I am talking about oxidation, which is one of the things that makes cholesterol more problematic. It is when it changes and becomes more likely to stick to the vessel wall. Pomegranate helps precisely in this scenario, as if it were support for the body to better deal with this wear and tear. And ideally, when possible, is to use pomegranate in seeds, not only as juice, and fiber slows down the speed of sugar, helps the intestine and improves the overall effect of the meal. How to put it in the oatmeal without turning it into a mess. Oatmeal ready, warm, and you add a few spoonfuls of pomegranate seeds on top. But if it is expensive in your region or hard to find, do what you can. 2 or 3 tablespoons already give the oatmeal a different profile. And there is a simple point that many people do not do. Chew well. It is not to swallow any which way. If you want, you can combine pomegranate with a little bit of honey. A little, very little, just to round out the flavor. But here is a caution for those who already have high sugar. You do not need the honey. Pomegranate is already naturally sweet. The idea is to support circulation, not to keep creating sugar spikes every morning. Now we arrive at the first ingredient, the one that causes the most strangeness when a person hears the name, hemp seed or hemp hearts. Many people already turn up their nose because of the name, but here we are talking about a seed used as food, with a mild, somewhat nutty flavor. There is no mystery, and the reason it comes first is because it brings together 2 very useful things for arteries: fats in a very interesting proportion, and an amino acid that the body uses as raw material to relax the vessels. What does that mean in simple terms? It means that it helps the body to open the way more easily, and it also helps reduce that climate of inflammation that makes everything harder and more reactive. But again, there is the preparation detail. Just like flaxseed, it works better when you use it fresh and, if possible, lightly crushed or ground on the spot. It doesn't need to turn into very fine flour. It's just to break it a little to better release the oils. And you put it on warm oatmeal, not boiling. 3 tablespoons is a common measure, but if that is too much for you, start with 1 and increase gradually. It makes the oatmeal creamier and more sustaining. There are people who, after adding hemp, notice that they stay satisfied for longer and don't keep snacking for the rest of the morning. And that, indirectly, also helps the heart, because snacking on sweets all day is one of the things that most disrupts the vessels over time. Now, the most important thing of all is to understand the following. You don't need to use all 6 at once. But you can, yes, put together a combination that is practical and tasty. A very down-to-earth example would be warm oatmeal, ground flaxseed, cinnamon, a touch of cocoa, and pomegranate on top. On another day, warm oatmeal, turmeric with pepper and a drizzle of olive oil, and hemp on top. You alternate, test, create your way. And if you are the type who likes to simplify as much as possible, I'll give you an easy path. Choose 2 to become fixed, and leave the others as optional. For example, fix flaxseed and cinnamon, and rotate pomegranate, cocoa, and hemp, depending on what you have at home. Turmeric you use when you want to take an extra step in caring for inflammation. And remember, the promise here is not to unclog in one night. That is pretty talk that does not match real life. What matches real life is improving the ground every day, because the body is intelligent. It responds when you give support, especially when the support is consistent, simple, and does not become suffering. If you want, in the next section, I can close everything in a very emotional and motivational way, tying together the idea of routine, consistency. If you have made it this far, I want you to stop for a moment and think about one very simple thing. Your heart works for you every day, without rest, without a break, even while you sleep. And after 75, it has already worked a lot. The arteries that today need more care did not become like this from one week to the next. It was the accumulation of years, small repeated choices, small excesses, small neglects that seemed harmless. But the good news is that the opposite is also true. Small positive choices, repeated every day, also accumulate. A spoonful of flaxseed today, a touch of cinnamon tomorrow, a little well-combined turmeric, a few pomegranate seeds, pure cocoa, hemp ground on the spot. None of this is an isolated miracle. But together, within a simple and consistent routine, they create a different environment inside your body. A less inflamed environment, more flexible, more favorable to the natural flow of blood. And do you know what is most beautiful in all of this? You are not doing anything extreme. You are not starving. You are not living on a crazy diet. You are just strengthening the first meal of your day. Oatmeal stops being just something healthy and becomes a strategic base for taking care of your circulation. And even if you already have a family history, even if you already use medication, even if you have already heard that age weighs, your body still responds. It still has the capacity for adaptation. It can still improve when it receives the right stimuli. But it needs consistency. It is not doing it for 3 days and stopping. It is turning it into a habit. It is becoming automatic. It is becoming part of your morning, like brushing your teeth. If you choose to start tomorrow, start simple. You don't need to use the 6 ingredients at once. Choose 2. Test. Adjust the flavor. Do it your way. The important thing is to start. And now I want to hear from you. What is your oatmeal like today? Do you already use any of these ingredients? Which one surprised you the most? Write here in the comments. I really like reading the experiences, because many times what works for one person can inspire another. If this content made sense to you, if it helped clarify something, if it brought a practical idea that you can apply, subscribe to the channel. That way you keep receiving simple, direct guidance designed especially for those who are already over 50, 60, 70, and want to age with more autonomy. And share this video with someone you love. A brother, a friend, your partner, someone who eats breakfast every day, and perhaps still does not know that small changes can have such a big impact over time. Taking care of the heart is not about fear. It is about respect for your own history, and every morning is a new opportunity to take better care of it.